Good morning, good morning, good morning in the evening.
Good morning, Rosaline. Good morning, Chuck. How are you
Hey,
doing?
Chuck.
Morning.
Hello, Chuck.
Do I got to push this? I think I got it. Okay. Woohoo! Good morning.
Morning.
Like afternoon here. I don't know why I would say something.
So,
I'm not good with time anyway. I can call it whatever I want.
Chuck, who cares? Who cares?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, wonderful. Xander?
Okay.
Yeah, totally loud and clear.
Beautiful, beautiful. So, Chuck,
Gosh, what a wonderful expression here.
I'm very, very, very happy to meet you. And Xander, very nice and beautiful that you're here too. And yeah, to be honest, I really would love to know about you, Chuck, about you, about your story,
Which
about,
story do
yeah.
you want to know?
Um,
Okay, yeah, I wanted to share my 8-year-old story.
okay,
Can
go
I?
for this.
Okay. So when I was very young, I used to get all these squirrels. I was really good with nature. I'd go in the trees all the time and get all the cherries and different things that would be in season. And almost every year, I would find a squirrel that was thrown out of its environment.
Oh,
One year, I got this rabbit, just a little baby rabbit,
hmm,
and my dad says you can't take a wild rabbit, um, and but I couldn't find its mom, so I thought, well, he said it'll die. It can't you can't domesticate a wild rabbit. And so I tried to give it grass and everything, and the dang thing, started, having convulsions and stuff. I had distemper apparently, and like for 12 hours, I watched this rabbit die in my hands, and I was 8, and I was on the step outside, and I realized, my parents were in the house. They were giggling about something, and I always thought, that all the grown-ups didn't know anything. I was just amazed that they were would ever get upset about anything or anything like that. I couldn't understand. But here I am watching this rabbit die for like 12 hours, where it had the double jointed, you know, neck, and it was just a terrible death. And it was the first time I had ever really recognized its death at all, really. And so, and I saw people walking down the street. It's like the whole world was still spinning. Everything was just happening as though this rabbit dying wasn't everything in the world, because it seemed to be. And then it dawns on me that this happens at all times, that death is going on all the time. And I remember just, um, sobbing as this dang rabbit was dying in my hands. And I could not understand how everybody could be just oblivious to all the suffering of just this rabbit. But it became clear that this is happening to everyone, and my own parents are going to die. So and then all of the troubles people have, and nobody pays any attention to any. And I was just going, my God, I haven't either. I have a good time almost all the time. I'm just a kid. And it starts getting dark. This rabbit's still dying in convulsions, and and I just looked up into the heavens more. Didn't I was 8, and I realized, well, if there's aliens, if this is happening for them, then I'm realizing that I heard somewhere that stars blow up. It's like everything is dying. And I was just devastated at 8 years old. And then all at once, um, because I didn't have any framework, like I just realized that death was happening. uh, and well, what happened is that a great peace came on me, and for no reason whatsoever, it was okay. And and it's that same thing that still happens, but I didn't have any framework, and so I just learned different frameworks of understanding this capacity for accepting everything that can happen, anything bad that could happen, anything good that happens, all of it. And so then I went from one thought system to the next in a long series that culminates to this time. Now I still love to see the stories that allow the human being to live in peace, even in the midst of this incredible arising that's in constant flux and change, this transient experience. And so, but that's I can see that that's exactly the point where I woke up. It doesn't mean I didn't get all caught up through puberty and every other dang thing.
Chuck,
But and now it's more like non-duality.
Chuck, wait a sec, please. I have a question. So, when you were 8 years old, apparently, you had this kind of experience with the dying rabbit,
Yeah,
with the
death.
dying bunny. By the way, I also had a bunny. And so when you realize that there is a thing called death, that everything is ending, and
Problems and everything.
this was kind of scaring you, right? For at first, or
Well, it
making
was
us
it was just a grief. It was a horrifying grief and a
horrifying.
recognition of our condition as human beings. As human beings, as condition. I recognize the human condition in all of its ramifications, really, because it was also troubles, problems, concerns. I was even before then. I was kind of dumbfounded that parents could worry about things. It seemed weird to me that we could worry, that parents, adults could worry. It just seemed completely strange. I'm going, well, why would you be worried about something like that? And they would be, communicate with each other, and they would talk about things like that. And I didn't have that, and then all of a sudden death came. That was a pretty stark thing, and because I took responsibility for this rabbit too. That was like the beginning of responsibility because I wasn't supposed to take this rabbit because it was going to die, and my dad didn't want me to have to go through that. But I said, well, no, I could make it live. I'll make it live. I didn't make it
Beautiful,
live.
beautiful. So and then okay, what
Anything
happened
about it.
then? As I heard, you were kind of walking a
Well, then,
spiritual way.
pardon me.
You had a spiritual journey.
Well, yeah, basically,
But wait, why that?
I,
Why
I
that?
realized all of nature, everything, the stars, the universe is going to die. Everything dies and change and all of that, and it just and a peace came. There, I didn't have a framework, and so there was a search for a framework from that point on,
Can
and
you put
I
it in
couldn't get it
different
from
words with
religion.
the framework? With the I cannot get it, the point. Can you describe it differently?
Okay, I had to be able to understand it. What happened?
What? What?
The relief,
The peace, the
the
sudden
peace,
peace, the peace. He was
the
trying,
sudden peace.
yeah, to find to find a framework where he could be able to understand the sudden arising of peace, of this, of being, of just simply this.
Yeah, the suffering of
There was this,
recognizing.
yeah, there was this sudden, maybe people will call it like a collapse, but there was no way in expressing this because there was no framework to put it in.
Okay, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
so that was the beginning of seeking, but it was also the awakening. They do come together. One feeds the other. You can't possibly wake up without recognizing that you're sleeping. And the real recognition was that I believed in death. There, I couldn't not believe it. And the relief was the awakening was 12 hours later after recognizing death and the human condition and the condition of nature, the condition of the entire dream. Uh, I had no, um, it all happened in 12 hours and the resolution of it also came, but I had no idea of how it came. All I knew is that this peace, despite the suffering, recognizing suffering for what it was, what it is, what it appears to be, there was this relief that happened. It was innocent. It wasn't conceptual. It was a raw experience of death, and then the raw experience of relief from this suffering. And well, then of course, then life came in because the mind was there. The whole thing was born then, and but I always knew that this was possible. That this freedom was possible, regardless of any situation. So nothing really hit me that hard ever again because there was this certitude, but it didn't have a framework, and so without at least the conscious mind knowing the possibility and the actuality of freedom ever present, except I couldn't have it. I didn't have a framework for that. And so the search was on, and so
Party on. So
I was on too, I was on the whole time. That I mean, I see with hindsight the clarity of this, that this was, and then it's everything else has been just a mirroring of that all the way up to and including especially this non-duality.
Mm.
And I love to frame it in many ways. I know many languages on how to frame this.
For example, what kind of languages?
Okay, I can speak Christian. I can speak to anybody about that has faith, Christian faith, or any faith in a God. I can speak of the omnipresence of God. And if it's omnipresent, it's absolutely impossible that it not be here and anywhere that you could possibly look. There's no possibility that God's omnipresence and his freedom and the freedom of omnipresence not be in every cell of the body, in any atom or in any part of the universe. His omnipresence assures you that you can't look anywhere where God isn't. And so there's no sense to look. You must accept. If you look, then you are denying the ever presence of God's omnipresence. You can't
Okay.
even look.
Okay, this was a Christian language where there's apparently someone who can do something, overlooking, not overlooking, hoping.
No,
And
because even the one that's looking has to be omnipresence itself. So the truth of omnipresence is non-duality.
yeah, wait, this is cool. This is cool. This is a point which I wanted to talk about, but I always forgot it. No one forgetting it, but and now it's popping up
Yeah,
very
we're going to talk
beautiful.
about it in Christian terminology. How awesome!
No, the
Spit
point
it
is
out.
such a great inspiration, Chuck. I thank you. It was
Thank
about
you.
this omnipresence, but putting into term like I am omnipresent, you are omnipresent, Zander is omnipresent,
How
the
could it be
laptop.
anywhere else but exactly where you are? It must
Okay,
be
so
present.
and now it's the point. Now there is the point.
So
Um,
God looks for himself.
this is totally cool and very very powerful. But here is for no reason popping up like to express
Good.
the same thing. Of course, the same thing. What else?
Must be.
Like, well,
You're
there
going
is
to speak a
no
different language now.
you, there is
Okay.
no me, there is no we,
But there's an appearance.
there is just there is just this
What arises?
omnipresence for no one,
That's
for no
right.
one to get, for no one to
But if there was
understand.
somebody, it would be omnipresence itself. If there was, if there was somebody, it would
Yeah,
have to be the very omnipresence. So this is the non-dual application of the ever-present, the omnipresence of God makes you God,
this is the
not in.
point. This is the point. This is the point. This is very very tricky and very I react very allergic to this, very
I can
allergic.
see that. I can
Totally,
feel it.
totally. This is one of the greatest traps ever. Here from this experience, of
Can't be a
course,
trap
from
though.
this point of view,
Okay.
um, I
Boy,
simply,
that's pretty
I sim,
splitty.
I
Sorry,
saw,
but go for it.
I saw very a lot of suffering, apparent suffering people, also in the spiritual way.
Oh
Um,
yeah, absolutely.
Finding a guide, a coach, a teacher, whatsoever,
Oh, yeah.
who suggests to be aware, to be conscious, to be present, to
Mm-hmm.
recognize yourself as the presence, or put it like as God. Like, you are God. There is only God. You can, of course, call it bubblegum too. But okay. And
Uh, I
and
like that language actually.
this is such a relief. This is such such a relief, in those tragic stories, apparent tragic stories, that they're simply like, wow, oh cool, thank you, thank you, thank you. And then of course they want to get one step further by knowing conceptually that there is no one, and they stay in this loop, like, okay,
That's the
how can
benefit
I
of
merge?
waking up at 8. There's a benefit of waking up at 8 years old. Is you're used to not not understanding
Okay,
the free
only
the
only
freedom that exists.
only about
But
this point. Okay, just want to say that
I love it. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
no,
That's
this
all
is
right.
this I simply wanted to share here, that
You're
that this
beautiful.
can you maybe tell out of your experience, if you I just simply saw by going this, it's just a story, yeah, just a game, by
Beautiful. Yeah.
find a kind of a release in being aware, and it's a total separation in this game, this teaching, this training of melting with whatsoever, observer, object, observation, like this Trinity, like
Awareness.
chaotic. This is an endless loop there running out. And then here was simply the strong drive to say, fuck, man, there is no one. Forget it. There is nothing. You know, like booming the whole show there. This endless loop of those. Actually, this is so arrogant. This is so fucking arrogant. The whole spiritual thing there. Sorry, okay. And now I shut up.
But
Okay.
of
That's
course,
what it looks like there. Oh shit! I'm sorry. That's terrible.
What did you say?
I said that's what it looks like there. That's it. That's Tony Parsons.
oh well, that's just simply what seems to be happening then, Rosa. But of
Yeah,
course,
there you go.
of course, not there never was a Chuck already asleep, or a Rosa, or a Sander.
No, heck, I was
Nobody
never 8
woke
years
up.
old.
Nobody woke up already, and I mean, this is just
Yeah, that's true.
like how it's seen
But
here
then
is,
again, nobody could be talking about it either.
oh, nobody's already actually talking about something else, there's just talking,
Oh.
and all the different languages, God, or Paratman, or Brahman, or whatever,
Oh, I
Nirvana.
have much. I mean, I love other languages much better.
So it's, yeah,
My favorite
exactly.
is not non-duality, radical non-duality either. It's not my favorite
So
language.
Chuck is like, I mean, how it plays out for Chuck is that he knows many languages, but it's still the same, It's just another way of
Right.
expressing what's is happening also there. Apparently, Rosa, on that side, there's no separation, there's no duality, there's no one and something else. There's just this. But there are different ways in expressing that which cannot be expressed. That's with what is just simply this, It's unknown,
Yeah.
unseen,
Otherwise,
unexperienced.
it's a trap. It's always going to be a trap if you're stuck in any language.
Exactly.
If you can see through all languages, well, then you're a walking Rosetta Stone,
You know,
and
it,
you recognize that the what's being sold and what's being bought is nothingness itself, because that's what we are in truth. I mean, or whatever, we can look at it that way. I would rather say it that way because that's my experience anyway. And
so
there's no me, of course, but none of that needs to be reiterated unless it does. And then, I don't know what kind of freedom there is in that. It's a language trap, as far as I'm concerned. But that doesn't matter. I'm not upset with it.
Oh
I
no,
love
it
it.
doesn't matter. Because nobody is trapped already in any language or
No,
any framework. It's just
no,
simply
that's
not
true.
possible to get trapped in any type of construction or spiritual seeking or path or whatever. There's this boundless
Totally.
Yeah.
freedom, whatever.
Totally.
The idea that
Totally.
you can, yeah, the idea that you can is
Yeah.
where we have lost our own freedom there, and it's not. It can only be conceptually. That's where you could. That's the only place you could get lost. It's only through words and
In
thought
the naming of it,
there can
you
be
can
the
only,
experience of being lost, the
yes,
arising of lostness, just like the
exactly.
arising of separation. It does not bind you
No,
because it appears that everything's separate. It does not bind you. So if you're bound by words, well, then that's just one more thing that you get to let go at some point. You don't have to do that. I mean, you can,
you
but
cannot get
and it's
cornered.
probably very important. Just like thinking has got its place. Thinking has
Totally.
its place, and so does being focused on um, a language, or rather, instead of using that word now, it's probably ruined by this point. But instead of getting caught up in any way with the. I mean, it's good to have a focus on a concept to until that concept is just like a bus. It brings you somewhere, and then it needs to be gotten out of. Otherwise, you just go on another trip. You will the bus will turn around, and it'll be a very circular thing until you don't have to do it. It's like it's the same thing as the idea of reincarnation. You're reincarnating every time that we get caught up in our own specific chosen or believed in approach. Concepts have to be used, and the mind is being used.
This is so beautiful. You see, it's simply so wow, the way it plays out. All the stories, all the beliefs, structures, frameworks, seeking, not seeking, awakening, not awakening, whatsoever. This is so beautiful. This is so beautiful. And when I was younger, Chuck, I simply
Yeah.
fell in love with simplicity, you know? I just checked that life is simple. This was enough for me. This was the direction there, apparently. And
Yeah. I was 8. You can't get no simpler than 8.
yeah, simple. And this
That's
is
pretty simple.
life is simply here, like very, very normally expressed. Um, it's simply there is
Yeah.
only life and nothing more is needed to be known or understood. That there is simply aliveness. And this is so beautiful. This is so full on. Um, yeah,
Yes.
and
Well, I
unknown.
know. I know that it's authentic. It's not a concept. If there's joy, if there's the freedom that comes with it, but not everybody that's subjected to the incredible beauty and simplicity of radical non-duality. There's a lot, there's a lot of frustration. If this isn't the glowing reality, then it's a concept that a person can get very lost in, and they can and it's that's the same in every single path. There's a lot of victims in the ditch in every path, and because somebody pops through, and they reverse engineer a capacity for explaining it because it's freedom, and it's everyone's included. It's a whole answer every time. There's anybody that is able to be innocent enough, simple enough to accept the language as it comes. Oh, it's so gorgeous. But every time that somebody's able to open to it, oftentimes they're losing it a lot because they're not coming from the top down. They're listening to somebody else's inspiration, somebody else's vision, somebody else's illumination, and so you fall off a lot, and at some point you just stop believing the apparent mishaps, mistakes, the apparent falling off, because you're coming from the bottom down now, up. You're not coming from you know, you're not coming from the top down. It wasn't your inspiration to begin with. So, but every single body that pops that ceiling are convinced, and they're capable of communicating this that they never did gain. They just woke to. They just came alive in, and it's on the tail of an insight of some type. It breaks the ceiling, and so now they have a language, and they oftentimes have to actually learn it themselves, and they have this intense desire to share it. I mean, we talk about no, there's no teaching there. I don't think any of them frame it in that way. Most of them don't frame it in that. But there's a massive teaching going on. There's a sharing. There's an
Totally,
energetic
this is
experience.
in everything is perfection. Everything is this is the whole thing is such a perfection. Nothing can be excluded, nothing is included. It's just totally wow. And if it's seen in this totality, in this perfect totality, there is really just no matter if it's the letter or whatsoever, it's just
I don't know
this.
what that letter is for sure. That letter is saying that there's a war or something going on. What is it?
Kind of, yeah. No matter if there is
Oh.
peace or war, it's just a stunning perfection already. This aliveness,
Yeah,
this
no, and
beautiful
that's
life.
it's unacceptable to a sense of separation. Just like it was unacceptable for people to be walking by, or for my own parents, for crying out loud, my own parents and family giggling while I'm on the porch, embracing death at a personal level because I took responsibility for this rabbit and I couldn't make it live. It was crushing. It's as crushing as it can be to an 8-year-old psyche
Mm.
that just tapped into. I mean, there was a recognition that people got sick or died, but I had no idea what that was. I was 8, but when I did recognize it, I recognized it totally, and
Mm.
I somehow had the innocence to look into the stars and recognize that they're going to blow up too. And that all these alien planets and stuff just populated with aliens, big eyes and stuff, that they're not escaping the situation either. It's an inescapable situation. And just this peace came on me that I still only recognize in a quiet, in the quiet of, a full, just radiance. That's all that can be said about it, really. But because it's beyond the mind, I had to pierce my own mind in order to find
It's
in
too
order to find an answer to this crazy situation.
it's simply too simple for the mind.
Yes, you can't be too dumb for God, but you can be too smart, and you can try to figure everything out, and you can have an ownership mentality, an ownership mind, and that this can all be given up. You give it up. You give it up so much that you stand up for this approach, and it's beautiful. It's worthy of being stood up for. It's worthy of recognizing and seeing that it's the highest teaching in the that the world has ever known. It's worthy of that. It's a whole answer.
Wow, very, very beautiful. Okay, so Xander, I suggest that you continue in our second part. So the first part is now over, and we see again in the second part, and Xander is going to share some impulses. Okay? Okay, good. So see you guys.
Bye.
Bye.
You're beautiful.
You too. I love you.